Okay, so 5.1 is on radicals and rational exponents. So like you see up on the board, our first like example can be something like that. You have to know how to rewrite these things the other way. So if you have A inside a radical box and it has a number in the front and a number on the inside, how do you rewrite that? You write it A to the m over n power. So the n that's in front right here, you notice it goes on the bottom of this fraction over here. That's like the thing you're going to have to realize. Where does the number on the outside of the box go? It's the bottom of the fraction. And the number inside the box is the top of the fraction. So you're going to have to be able to rewrite it. So if I gave you like 6x, and it can go vice versa. You know, like I could start with this way and get it into this way. So let's say you had like 6x to the 2/5 power. This one's the rational form, like the fraction form. Could you switch it back into the radical box form? So I'm going to put 6x in the box. Sorry. Yeah, what number is going to go in front on the outside? The 5, good job. And the 2 will go inside here. You can put 6x in parentheses even, because like the whole thing is going to be squared, and then... Yeah, so it's just like a rule, learn how to rewrite it. And like I said, this goes both ways. You can change it from this box format, this radical format, to the rational format, or the rational way back to that way. It's like back and forth. Okay, so the one that's confusing to a lot of people is a square root. A square root just looks like that. And even though square roots are the first thing you learned, you've learned those probably in the past, they're kind of confusing because there's no number in the front of it. So, do you know what number? It actually is a number there. We just don't write it because everyone knows square root. When you do square root, like the square root of 25, aren't you finding, okay, like I know a lot of you know what's square root of 25. Yeah, it's 5. Because isn't it 2 5s that make 25? Like 5 times 5 is 25. Takes 2 of them. So square root is like a 2 right there. Even though they never write the 2 there. When it's a square root, there is a 2 there. So if you want to rewrite square root of x, how does it get rewritten? It gets rewritten x to the, I'll write the, like this x doesn't have any powers on it either, so it's really like a 1. So it's really x to the 1/2 power. So the square root one, that's the trick one that everyone like forgets. There's actually a 2 in front on plain square roots. So if you don't see a number in front, it is a 2. Just like I didn't see a number after this, so it's a 1. 1/2. So that's the one that's always tricky for people. So, like if I had you do, you know, I can give you a lot of different examples. Let's say I had like, you know, like you can go vice versa and stuff too. Let's say you had like 3n to the 1/4 power. How do you rewrite that? Rewrite it in the radical form. So I'm just giving you some more examples. How do you think you'd rewrite that one? Yeah, these. Like, this one's the rational form, and this one's the radical form. Yep. This one's radical. This one's radical, this one's rational. So how could you rewrite it in the radical form? Well, I'd put the 3n in a box, in that square root box thing, like that. What number goes in front? 1 or 4? 4 goes in front, yep. And 1 could go here. Do I have to write a 1? No, I don't even have to write a 1. Like, if you don't see, and everyone knows, like, if you don't see a power, it's first power. You should know, like, everyone knows that. It's like a common thing. Yeah, so if you have 3n to the 1/4, you just write, same as 4th root of 3n. Call that the 4th root. Okay, let's try some more stuff. Let's try doing some simplifying. Okay, so if they have a variable to a power, like x to the 9th power, and then it's in parentheses, and then they have outside of it, let's say I put 2/3 on the outside. How do you deal with something like that? Well, so I gave you, this is like the rule. I gave you an x, and then it has like a power here, and then it has a power here. This is kind of like how this is formatted, right? Do you know what you're supposed to do with those to get the answer? Do you know what you're supposed to do with these little exponents? You're supposed to multiply the exponents. When it's a power and then another power right outside the parentheses, you're supposed to multiply the exponents. So that'd be like x to the ab, like a times b power. You know, that'd be like how you get the answer. So we want to apply that rule to this problem. If we have x to the 9th and then 2/3. You just have to take the 9 and times it by 2/3. See? It'll just be like that. 9 times 2/3 to get our new power. Yeah, if you just do that really quick on a calculator, you get 6. So the answer is x to the 6th. That's done. That's the answer. Bubble answer. Yep. So it's not too bad. You just multiply the exponents when something like that. Okay, let's try something a little harder. Let's try 125 x to the 6th, and then I'll put 1/3 power right here. So the power on the outside, you have to apply it to both things inside. It's kind of like distributing. You have to take the plain number, the 125 number, and you have to do the 1/3 power to it. Because it's in the parentheses, and you have to do that power to that number. And you have to take x to the 6th that was in there and do the 1/3 power on that also. So it's like I was saying, it's kind of like distributing. That 1/3 power on the outside is going to apply to everything inside. So, everyone can use a calculator, hopefully. If you need to borrow calculators, too, I know there's a couple new people. I have some up here. So you can always come up and grab one and borrow it. So, I have to type in 125 to the 1/3 power. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, there's an up arrow key for powers, like this up arrow, so it makes it do a raise to a power. And then I would use parentheses 1 divided by 3. Guess what it is? Anyone get it? Anyone try it? It's 5, yep. So that equals 5, and now we have to do the x thing. So when it's a variable, you do this rule like I just wrote. You have to multiply these exponents. This is a little different. See, this is 125 raised to this power. You type that in, you got 5. Now here, when it's a variable, you just multiply exponents. Do you know what 6 times 1/3 is? 6 times 1/3. Do you know what that is? 6 times 1/3 is 2, so it becomes x to the second. Like that. Okay, so you just did 1/3 power on each thing. So you take the 125, raise it to the 1/3 power. This one you times the exponents. With variables, you times your exponents. So it ends up with 5x squared. Okay, let's try one more. Let's try negative, because you can have negatives on these assignments. 1024. And let's say it says like x to the 5th. And then it's raised to the 2/5 power. So you're going to need a calculator today to do today's lesson. So if you need one, you can borrow one. Calculator. Okay. Alright, so yeah, if I missed anybody, just come up and grab one. Alright, so we gotta type in negative 1024 for this one. To the 2/5 power. You have to do the 2/5 power to that. And then you have to take x to the 5th to the 2/5 power. Each thing to that power. So it's like distributing. Do each thing to the 2/5 power. So practice typing it in. Negative 1024 to the 2/5 power. What do you get? Alright, so is it 16 or is it negative 16? That's the trick. So I would encourage you to use parentheses when you, especially like typing in negative numbers in calculators. If you put that in parentheses and do this power to it, it's 16. It turns to positive because the 5 underneath the 5th root, the 5th root is like negative 4 and then negative 4 squared. The top number is like squaring something. When you square things, they turn to positive. Like if you take a negative times a negative, it turns to positive. So like really what this is, that's a root, a 5th root. It takes like 5 4s to make that number. It's like negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 makes that number. And then negative 4 squared is positive 16. That's what the little fraction does. The top is squaring it, and the bottom number is a root, a 5th root. Okay, so we got 16. And then what do you get if you took x to the 5th to the, and then 2/5 power on that? Yeah, then that's just x squared. Yep. Because you just take 5 times 2/5 right here. You just, on the last part, you just do 5 times 2/5, like this, for the variable part. You don't have to like raise the power because it's just a variable. When it's just a variable, you just times the exponents, and you get 2. Yep, so it's x squared. So it's a little tricky. Use parentheses when you have negative numbers. Okay, let's see if there's any other ones. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, let's try the cubed root of negative 27, and then let's say it has a 5 right here. That's a lot. That's like, okay, looking at that, it looks confusing. Well, could you rewrite this thing? The root ones, if you can rewrite them that other way, like at the top, like how we have at the top of our notes. So if we have this negative 27 in there, how could we rewrite it so it's not in a box? So it's like a radical thing. Remember, the number in front of the radical goes on the bottom of the fraction. So do you know which way it's going to go? What fraction should I write up here? You have 5/3. Now you can grab a calculator and punch that in and see what the answer is. You should be able to. So use parentheses around the negative 27, and then do this power to it, 5/3 power. So you type it in kind of like that. I mean, I'm using my big calculator, but it's the same on these little ones. A power is the up arrow. So use parentheses negative 27, like that. Up arrow for a power. And then it's 5/3. You can hit the fraction key, 5/3, like that. Oh, it says domain error. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it does that sometimes. Okay, so if it does that, because it does that sometimes, the calculator's saying domain error. Alright, let's try. So then you kind of have to split it up, actually, even more if it says domain error. I know it's kind of annoying. Okay, so if it says domain error, you got to work with that. Alright, calculator didn't like that. Sometimes calculator doesn't like things we put in. So we actually have to like split this up and try to just do, let me see if I'm thinking about that domain error and thinking, is it going to do it again to me? That's what I'm worried about. Okay. So try to do like, so it has a 5 and a 3. It has 2 numbers to it. Let's try the 1/3 power to it. Instead of 5/3, let's try 1/3 power. And then we'll do like the 5th power on it. Like kind of split it up, do it in 2 steps. Like do the bottom number first. So negative 27 to the 1/3 power instead of 5/3, just 1/3. I better put parentheses. It's still going to do domain error, or is it going to like me this time? Okay, it did it this time. So sometimes you got to split it up. Negative 27 to the 1/3 is negative 3. So I'm doing like the inside first. So I did this part first and I got negative 3. Now just take negative 3 to the 5th. How about that? It splits it up then, and then it's like doable still. Negative 3 to the 5th is what? Negative 243. There we go. So yeah, sometimes the calculator, I guess what it doesn't like is that it has a negative, and it has trouble doing like both of these things at once. Negatives are kind of tricky on calculators. So just split that up. Just put the 5, like save the 5 for last. Save the top number, like 5th power for last. Just do this root first, 1/3 power first, and then this. Just have to split it up. Alright, so that's everything, guys. That last one's the trickiest. That could happen again. So